It was just past 6:30 on a warm Friday night in Wheatland, Pennsylvania. Kids were out riding their bikes near the Sharon Steel plant. The smell of fresh-cut grass floated under a sky that was starting to turn. Some folks were grilling. Others were heading to VFW halls or locking up shop for the weekend. 5 minutes later, nearly all of that was gone. On May 31st, 1985, at approximately 6:38 p.m., the only F5 tornado ever recorded in Pennsylvania dropped out of a rotating thunderstorm cell with no visible funnel. Just a lowering sky and a sudden roar. The National Weather Service later confirmed wind speeds had exceeded 260 miles per hour. That's 418 kilometers per hour. It was strong enough to pull vehicles into the air, snap steel girders, and vaporize wood frame homes. Entire structures weren't just knocked down. They were pulverized, reduced to foundation, bolts, and soil scars. Meteorological conditions that day were textbook for disaster. Surface air had climbed to above 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 27.8 degrees Celsius, and was soaked with tropical moisture drawn from the Gulf of America. Above that, a sharp trough in the jet stream brought cold, dry air and a strong southwest wind at high altitudes. This combination, known as directional shear, creates rotation inside thunderstorms. It was rare for the Northeast to see those ingredients come together, let alone hold together for hours. By mid-afternoon, radar began picking up supercell development over northeast Ohio. One particularly violent cell produced a wedge tornado near Niles. It widened rapidly. More than 1,500 yards across, 1.37 kilometers. And it tore through Newton Falls, Ohio, flattening neighborhoods with wind speeds that stripped asphalt from roadways. At 6:35 p.m., the same storm entered Pennsylvania, tracking due east. In Wheatland, the warning sirens gave only about 2 minutes of lead time. The tornado struck with such ferocity that weather stations miles away recorded sudden drops in barometric pressure and wind changes. It traveled for 47 miles, 76 kilometers, maintaining F4 to F5 intensity over a very wide swath. At its core, it sheared factory walls and tossed entire tractor-trailers over railroad tracks. 18 people died in that corridor. In Wheatland alone, over 95% of the buildings were destroyed, including nearly every home, the local post office, a school, and the administrative wing of the local steel plant. And that was only one part of what became the deadliest tornado outbreak in the United States history outside of the Central Plains. Between 3 p.m. and 11 p.m., 44 tornadoes touched down across Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Ontario. In Erie County, Pennsylvania, a separate F4 killed 7 more people. In southern Ontario, near Barrie, an F4 tornado derailed a train, destroyed 300 homes, and threw freight cars over 100 feet, 30.5 meters. That funnel was nearly a mile or 1.6 kilometers wide at its peak. The full toll, 89 dead, 76 in the U.S., 13 in Canada. Over 1,050 injured and more than 1,200 homes destroyed. Over $600 million in 1985 money, equivalent to $1.74 billion in damage. What made the damage worse was its context. Towns like Wheatland, Albion, and Corey, they were not used to tornado drills. There had never been a recorded F5 east of the Mississippi River that far north, and most homes lacked storm shelters. Many communities relied on county dispatch for weather updates without local Doppler radar or real-time alerts. That all changed afterwards. The outbreak became a turning point for emergency management east of the Great Plains. Pennsylvania invested in NEXRAD Doppler radar expansion. Ontario adopted an integrated early warning system. Structural engineers studied the F5's path and discovered that common framing techniques failed catastrophically, so new building codes were drafted in the years that followed. The event also shaped meteorological research. It led to a greater understanding of how non-traditional regions could generate violent tornadoes. Today, the May 31st, 1985 outbreak is taught in atmospheric science classes as a case where geography misled preparation, and where radar signatures did not fully reveal the tornado's strength. And yet the science, it doesn't capture the sound. Survivors didn't describe it as a howl. They called it a scream. A jet engine shriek that came from everywhere all at once and pulled walls apart like cardboard. One Wheatland resident, a woman who had lived through both war and a flood, said afterward, "I've never heard silence like the silence after that. Nothing was left. No birds, no voices, just wind and wood dust." For the engineers, it was a failure of resistance. For the meteorologist, it was a case study. For the families who buried loved ones, it was neither. It was the day memory stopped being safe. These are Interesting Things with JC.